So welcome everybody to another episode of Back to the Future. Did I say Back to the Future? Okay, that was a TV series, but nevertheless, welcome to the future of NextPax distribution API. And I will tell you in just a few moments what that means. But before I go into that, you might be wondering, who is this person that is talking to us and why is he here, right? I think the reason is clear. I'm going to talk to you about the new distribution API that is being launched by NextPax. My name is Stefan, and I am the API product owner of NextPax. I've joined in November last year, so in a few days I will be with the team for almost 3 months. Before that, I was working for Booking.com for the last 6 years in various roles, from customer-facing roles to hotels or property-facing roles, and also connectivity, right? So API development, integrations with third-party companies that would take the inventory of Booking.com. Before that, I worked in game development. I was a team leader in QA, so quality assurance. So as you can tell, I am a nerd when it comes to technology. And I'm also an enthusiast about travel technology, and I love to travel. So there's a lot of things that I have in common with NextPax, and also with many of you, I guess. But okay, enough about myself, right? So let me tell you why you're here today. But before I do that, again, I would like to share a few words, right, to all of our partners, and also not only existing partners that NextPax is working with, but also to any new potential partners that are out there or in the call, right? So I think we all can agree that 2020 was not an easy year, right? It was tough. The travel industry was hit badly, right? And we had some hard times. Nevertheless, I think that through partnerships and working together, collaborating, we can still achieve many things, and we can work for a better future, right? For ourselves as partners, but also for our customers, right? So I would like to say thank you to each and every one of you as a partner that is working with NextPax or will consider to work with NextPax, right? So thanks again. And let's look forward to a brighter future. Good, but what do we have in store for today, right? So in today's session, we are going to present you our new distribution API, and I'll tell you more about that, right? Also, we've heard your feedback, right? So the feedback that we receive from our current partners using the NextPax FTP solution, right? So I will explain also later on what that is, right? So the XML feeds that NextPax is using with many of you as existing partners. So we had a survey, right? And many of you participated, you gave us your feedback, you told us what is important, right, for you as a channel or as a website, right, that kind of presents inventory to customers. We took that feedback into consideration, right, and we incorporated it in this new API that we call distribution API, right? And as we will see in the next slides, it's all about inventory, right? So our API will provide you access to over 1 million properties, right? It's all about revenue, because at the end of the day, you making bookings, it is revenue for you, it's also revenue for us, right? So it's a win-win situation for all of us. And we want to increase that revenue for all the parties involved, right? And we do that by using technology and by innovating. And the distribution API is actually a result of that. And speaking about technology, like as luck would have it, NextPax will celebrate this year 15 years of experience in the travel technology, right? So I hope we will all be able to celebrate that moment. And of course, it's all about people and support, right? So even though we have many people working on the team, right, whether they're account managers or specialists, they're all there available to support you, right? To support our partnerships, again, existing partners, new partners, and anybody that is interested in having a collaboration with NextPax, right? It's all about creating those new opportunities for the future. But again, we didn't come today to talk about 2020 or to talk about the past, right? Or, well, the future, yes. But you came today to see why you should be using the distribution API, right? That was the purpose. And of course, I hope that at the end of this presentation, you will be convinced and you will be reaching out to us to let us know that you would like to know more about the distribution API. But let's see why. Why should you use it, right? That's a very honest question. I think that each and every one of us will ask, right, when they have to kind of devote some resources. Well, first of all, let me tell you this. The REST APIs are the future, right? Especially when you want to deliver large inventories or a large number of properties, you need an API that is fast, right? And that it allows you to build that inventory in no time. Whether it's 500 properties or 5,000 or 500,000, it needs to do that very, very fast, and it needs to be scalable, right? As I mentioned, NextPax has over 1 million properties, but maybe 3 months from now or 6 months from now, we will have 2 million, 3 million, 5 million. Of course, you need an API that is able to scale and also to provide you with relevant information. Of course, it's also about you as partners and your teams that are going to work on the API. And for that, we want to provide you a comprehensive documentation and support, right? We want to make it easy for your teams to develop against this API. And the end goal, I guess it applies for all of the ones I mentioned. It's about efficiency, right? It's about spending less time and people maintaining the inventory that you get from us. Because I guess nobody wants to do manual work, right? So we are working towards a solution that will allow you to automate most of the things, right? So to make it easy and efficient. Well, if you're not convinced yet, I will still want to show you, I would like to show you a few things that you will be able to do with our API, right? So these are the things that we at NextPax identified, but of course there could be many more things that could be done. First of all, content sync, right? So NextPax is known for all of the content that it possesses, right? About properties, the inventory, and it's about the images or descriptions or even the general information like names and addresses of those properties. Would you like to do a full content sync or a full snapshot? Yes, that's possible. Would you like to be more selective and kind of decide what you need or what you would like to have? You can do that as well. It's also about providing real-time updates, right? So as I mentioned, there is all of this content, there's all of this inventory. You've made a full snapshot, but would you like to always have to refresh it? Or would you rather have a service that allows you to receive updates only for those properties that have changed? If the answer is yes, then we have something for you, right? So real-time updates is very important for us, and it will provide you all the changes that have happened to the properties that you receive, whether that's content, right? Images, descriptions, calendars, and even rates. There will be an information there. On-demand pricing. So of course, if you want customers to make a booking, they need to know the price, right? They need to know the rates. And we provide you the ability, again, to retrieve the full pricing tables that we have, or again, you can decide for yourself. Maybe you only need the pricing for the summer, right? Because that's the season that you are working with. You can do that. Next is availability, right? Knowing when the inventory is available, knowing when that property or that hotel has units available. And we provide up to 2 years of availability in the future. Once again, you can take it all, or you can be very selective and use the filtering that we have available and decide what is relevant to you. Property managers, or as we call them, supply partners, right? So whether they are property managers or property management systems, you will have some relationships with these partners, and you will be retrieving information and properties through our API. This piece here about property managers, it's about allowing you to receive that information that is specifically relevant to those partners. Think about house rules, right? Think about policies. What is the specific policy that that supply partner has, right? And it's very important information that you will need to provide to customers when they book one of those properties from that partner. And last but not least, flexibility, right? So the ability to customize the information you receive. And on top of that, also customize the information you display, because at the end of the day, it's your front end, it's your platform, and you decide what you want to have there. We give you the means to get it, and you have the flexibility on how you want to, on what you want to receive and how you want to display it. Once again, if there's any question that you might have, please add in the Q&A, right? I've enabled that for all of you. Cool. Now, I've kind of given you a few reasons as to why you should use it, but you maybe are still wondering, what is the distribution API? I still don't have the full picture, right? Fair question. Well, let's have a look. And I would like to let this slide sink in a little bit, right? Because it provides you a few key takeaways. One is that the distribution API is dedicated to channels, right? It is a fast way to get all of the inventory. Second, I would like to touch on the bulky flat files or the XML feeds that I kind of mentioned briefly in the beginning, right? That was a solution that NextPax developed not long ago, and at the time it was very good, right? XML was the new thing on the block. But times move on, right? Times change, technology change. And with this, also NextPax has to do it, right? So we want to say goodbye to that technology, and we are bringing this new, let's say, distribution API. And it's about delivering the content, a lot of content, whether that's images, again, descriptions, amenities, right? It's all about having that information available to you, because that is the information that comes from the property managers and the property management systems and all of their inventory. And they want to make sure that you receive all of that information, and we make that possible. Of course, it's all about the rates and availability, right? Again, you cannot have a booking without this. The customer will not be able to reserve a room, a unit, an apartment. And last but not least, right, it is a way of giving you that up-to-date information, which is very, very important because it will speed things up. It will also allow you to have those rates that are very accurate and eliminate any chance for an overbooking, right? Very, very important. Good. Let's have a look at what is the structure of the API in terms of endpoints, right? So that's kind of how we call functionality in an API. It's like endpoints. And the first piece is properties. I think as the name implies, it's all about providing you the relevant information for our profits, right? So again, whether they are 500, 5,000, a million, right? It's all about delivering that content. So whether that's static content, right? Like descriptions or photos, amenities, it's all there. Then is the property manager's endpoint, right? And that is responsible for providing you that specific information to a supply partner, right? Or property manager in this case, like we call it. Again, house rules or think about policies. That information will be there in this dedicated endpoint. The next two ones, rates and calendars, kind of goes without saying, right? It's about pricing, it's about availability, right? So they have their dedicated endpoints. Again, with filters available for you to choose what you receive and how, right? Next is mapping codes. Mapping codes. Now, I will give you an example. Let's say in our platform on NextPax, we have a code for air conditioning. But maybe that's not the same code that you have on your platform, right? And for you to kind of map the information that we send you or you retrieve from us, you need to know the mapping information. You need to know those codes and what they need. And that endpoint will do exactly that. Will allow you to do a mapping on your end and have the correct information, right? That you receive in the content. Last but not least, the property changes, right? As I mentioned, real-time updates. Those are coming in this endpoint, right? And it's all about providing you those changes from the last 6 hours or 24 hours, right? You will be able to specify a timestamp and say, hey, give me all the changes that have happened to the inventory from 24 hours ago, from yesterday, right? And we will tell you, hey, in this time frame, you have this property and the pictures have changed or the descriptions have changed, right? So we will let you know the properties, but also what piece has changed, what information was changed, so that you don't always have to take everything from scratch. Good. Now, we also have our very own developer portal, right? Because as we said, we want to make life easy for your developers and for your teams when they work on the integration. So they will have a place where they can find all the specs, for example, the Swagger, or they will find articles around the authentication, or even around the certification. And I will touch a bit later in another slide about what is a certification. But all the information should be there, right? All the questions that your team might have should be found there. If we have time, I will also show you very briefly how this looks in real time, right? So this image here that I have is a mockup, but if we have time, we can also go very quickly to show you some samples of the endpoints that we are just talking about. Now, I would like to take a few more minutes and also address our existing partners, right? And our existing partners that are using the fax generator solution or the XML feed that we were talking in the beginning, right? And they might be wondering, hey, what's in store for me? I already have a solution from NextPax, so why should I be using or migrating to this new distribution API, right? A migration, as you might understand, will take some time or will take some resources. But here is why they should be doing that. First of all, the fax generator is using XML feeds, which can get very large, right, over time, especially when the number of property grows, and they are flat files. There's no easy way to get the content changes, right, or updates, as I mentioned, right? You either take everything or nothing, right? So it's not possible to receive only specific information. You cannot say, hey, give me only the availability from July or August. No, you have everything there. Also, there is a 24 hours gap between refreshes, right? So between the exports. So what information you receive today might have changed in the time that, let's say, 6 hours, but you will only get a new copy within 24 hours, right? That might cause some issues sometimes. And of course, this product, as I said, it was good at the time that it was created, but it's time to move on. So it will be deprecated in a year from now. And there will be no future support for this. Now, on the other side, for the distribution API, it will allow you to get the entire inventory in minutes, right? Everything. You will be able to get updates and make those updates very easy. You will be able to pick your desired information, right? As I mentioned, it's not like you have to take everything. You can, if that's what you want to do, but you don't have to. And it's easy to maintain for us. We can add features for you, right? So even though this is the first version, version 1.0, as we would call it in software development, we can add more stuff tomorrow and after tomorrow, right? We will constantly add new features to it. And there will be constant support, right? So our teams will focus on the distribution API. Now, what about new partners, you might think? And I hope that some of you in the call today are also new, fresh partners that are considering to work with NextPax. And you might be thinking, hey, okay, but what about me? Now, what you get is a new REST API technology, right? It's providing fast and reliable responses. We make it very easy to use and also to develop against. You can pick and choose the information you need, which gives you flexibility. You have access to a developer portal with rich information and documentation to make it easy, again, for your teams to work with. And of course, NextPax will provide you support throughout the integration process. From the moment that you start the first conversation until the end, when we kind of go live, right, and the development is finished, and beyond. So NextPax will be there to support you during the whole process. In terms of timeline, right, I mentioned, I think, a few steps. So obviously we will start with an evaluation, and that evaluation might be around the first conversations that happen between you and NextPax. Maybe there is a commercial discussion, or there might be an agreement in place, right? An NDA. Those details, of course, need to be discussed. After that, it's all about providing you access to our API, right? So access to the developer portal, you will get a token, right, to use the API. The next step is actually building, right? It's about integrating the distribution API that we are providing. So your teams will be using our endpoints that I've just talked about. They will do the development, they will do tests in our sandbox and kind of work on the integration. When they say, hey, we're done, right? So your team will come to us and say, look, the work is finished on our end. The certification is the next step, right? So, and think about this as a kind of, let's say, us together with you doing some checks to ensure that the information is accurate or the content is displayed correctly. Now, think about this example. Let's say that you took the policy information from us, but due to some small issue, is not showing correctly for the customer. And the customer is making a booking. And of course, there might be a complaint, right, if something's wrong. And I guess you don't want that, and we definitely do not want that. So we just want to make sure that everything is implemented correctly and is showing correctly. Of course, if everything is in order, the last step is about going live, right? It's about having access to production and using the new API and create those bookings that we all want. Well, these are the 5 steps, right? I think they're quite easy. If you have any questions about any of these steps, you can reach out to us and we can give more details if you need. I'm sure you have many questions. But before we go to your questions, I would also like to address 3 main questions that, again, we identified, right, from talking to our existing partners. And the first question that came was like, hey, do I need to download all the content? And the answer is no, right? Unlike with the Pax XML or XML feeds solution where you got everything, with the distribution API, you can decide what you get, right? So again, the answer is no. You can customize the requests, and even then, you can pick what you need. The second question was around updates, right? And about that gap of 24 hours between exports, right? So the question is, can I retrieve any updates or they'll Absolutely, right? That was one of the major focus for our team when we started to work on the distribution API and to kind of make the design. So with our API, you can retrieve one or more properties on demand if they have a change, right? We will tell you what was the change. So you can only take that change and not everything. Now, the last question is a bit more open, right? So it's about how long will the development take? And I've heard this question a lot in my, let's say, more than 5 years of experience. Everybody wants to know, like, how many people do I need to put to work on this? Or how many resources, right? How long is it going to take? Even though our API uses standard JSON responses and intuitive naming conventions, right? We want to make it easy to develop against. You should still expect a few weeks, right? Depending on the size of your team. I'll give an example. Let's say you have 4 people working full time on this integration. It should take you no more than 3 to 4 weeks, right? At least from our experience. Again, this may differ depending on your platform, but it should take between 3 and 4 weeks. But if you have only 2 people and maybe they're working half the time on the integration, it might take 4 to 5 weeks, right? So again, it's all about the priority that you assign to the integration, and of course, how many people you put on, right? Now, I hope that this answered a few questions, right? Now the burning question, when is this available, right? And the distribution API is actually launched on the 25th of January, 2021. That is in a few days from now, next week, actually, right? We have our developer documentation, right? The developer portal, and I put there the link. Do note that login credentials are required for that, right? But that's where we come in. We can provide you those. You just have to let us know. Of course, you can reach out to our support email, right? So whether that's questions about the commercials or even, let's say, other details that you need to know, you can use the support at nextpax.com to let us know about your interest or about any potential questions. And last is we also have let's say a technical team, right? So including myself and my team that are kind of focusing on the technical aspects of the distribution API. And we are also there ready to assist you and ready to answer any questions that you or your teams might have about the technical side. So please reach out to us. Now, before we go to the questions, I see that we are very, very good in time. I would like also to give you a short sneak peek at the portal, right? So I've mentioned that if we have time, we can look at the developer portal. So allow me just a few moments to stop sharing and then bring the other screen. Okay. Because I'm sure some of you maybe are keen developers or technical people that would like to know how our portal looks like, right? So that's a fair question. Good. Great. So I hope you are now seeing my other screen, right, with the portal. So it should say developer portal. Oh, okay. I need to put. And we're in, right? Now, of course, the developer portal is in an early version, right? It's the first version that we have. So you might think like, hey, it's a bit empty, but rest assured, you should have all you need in order for your teams to start developing, start their tests, and work with it. So as I mentioned, right, we have the endpoints available, right? So here you can see the content endpoints, so like the properties endpoint, where you can retrieve the information of the property, so like contents. Here are some samples, right? So you can immediately see what is expected, what information are you supposed to receive. So think about the journey information, right? So like the name of the property, or what are the times for checkout and check-in? What is the max occupancy, the coordinates? Then we have amenities, right? So you will know immediately what kind of amenities. Again, note here, right, that you see some attributes and some codes. Remember that I mentioned that we have a dedicated endpoint for mapping codes, right? So these are the codes that you will need to refer to our mapping code endpoint to know, hey, what is P05 or P0S? What is that, right? We will show you, I will show you also. Of course, you can see the fees, right? So additional costs that this property might have. or images. What is the property manager that actually owns this property? What are the points of interest or nearest places, right? Like the city center, how far is the city center, or the train station? What are the taxes? If they use a PMS, right, or a property management system, what is that, right? You will also see that there. What is the property ID? Give me 1 second. Right. I will cover the questions in a few minutes. Right. Let's finish with the sneak peek and then we can get to questions. Thank you. Well, somebody was asking how can we access the API. I'll cover that in a bit. Good. Apart from that, we have the property changes. Right. So I mentioned that you will be able to provide a timestamp. Right. So you can say, hey, I want all the changes from yesterday, 24 hours ago. You can even specify for which property manager, right? Maybe you want to take it piece by piece, or for which property management system. And then you will receive the responses. It will look something like this, right? So first we will tell you the property ID or the property reference, right? And then what kind of changes they've had. So for example, in this sample, is the images have changed, right? We also have a dedicated endpoint for property managers, right? I think I've mentioned that also, where you will be able to see information about those property managers that or supply partners that you're working with, right? So again, some sample here. By the way, every endpoint here has a schema, so your developers can also look here if they want to see the structure, right? So that's also present there for them to use. Rates. So rates, very important to get the pricing, for example, right? So you can do that by property ID, or you can do that by property manager, right? Or even you can do it by property management system. And you can specify dates, right? So you have quite some filters available for you to be able to choose what kind of rates or for which kind of properties do you want those rates. You don't have to take everything, right? And this is a sample output. This is kind of how it looks like. For those of you that are existing partners using the PAX generator solution, this output should be very familiar, right? We've tried to keep it as similar as possible. Of course, where we have to make some changes or additions, some things might be different, but we try to keep the same format as much as possible. The same counts for calendars, right? Or availability. Again, the same level of flexibility in terms of filters. And then the output. Also, one thing that I didn't mention is that some of these endpoints also have a dedicated paths, right? So I'll give an example for the calendars. As you can see, we have two of them, calendars and then calendars and property ID. So the difference with this is as follows. The calendars endpoint allows you to retrieve for one or more properties and has a bunch of filters available. Whereas the dedicated path allows you to specify a particular property ID, and then you get the information only for that one. The use cases might be different, right? So whereas this one with just one property ID will be very, very fast, right? Because maybe you want a lightning fast response. The other one allows you to do bulk downloads, right? Bulk retrievals. So for more properties in one go. So there can be many use cases here. And that's why we want to provide that functionality in a flexible way. Now, remember, I mentioned the mapping code, right? So the internal codes that NextPax has and that you will need in order to link the content pieces. So just to give a few examples. So we have property types, because maybe the way that we call an apart hotel, right, on our database is not the same that you do, right? So we give you here the code and you will know what that means, right? You will know what type of property that is. Now for places of interest or points of interest, right? You will see here you have city, right? And our code is this one, CTY. Again, is to help you link the pieces of content that you get from our API. The same about fees, right? The same about amenities, and a bunch of other items, right? Now, apart from that, we will also have more articles here on the left-hand side where you see the menu, right? We still need to add the last pieces that we have. But I wanted to give you a sneak peek at the certification, right? So beforehand, we are providing you all the information you need to know, right? So when you start in development, you know exactly what kind of guidelines we want to provide you. And there can be some that are kind of required or recommended, right? Because as you saw in the beginning, NextPax has 15 years of experience working in the travel industry, and we might have some recommendation, right? When it comes about highlighting certain pieces of information that customers will want to have or will want to see there in order for them to make a booking. So again, this will be made available very shortly to everybody that is interested and wants to work with our distribution API. I hope that you like the sneak peek. And now I would like to direct our attention to the question, right? So there was a first question on when the developer portal will be made available to all of you. This is already available, right? We have a version that is out there. The only thing that we need to do is provide you the access. In order to get the access, you can get in touch either with the account managers at NextPax if you have already your contact, or you can use that email address that I showed there, support@nextpax.com, and we can set you up with the access and credentials to kind of see the portal, and of course, eventually also use the API, right? Remember the 5 steps that I presented. So first is some kind of conversations that need to happen, then you get the access. Good. Any other questions? Or any other points that you would like me to cover? Good. There's a very good question from JC, right? What is the request per minute limit for this API? And that is indeed a very good question. So thanks for that. When we made the initial design, of course, we touched on this topic, on the rate limit and even the concurrent requests, right? The simultaneous requests. And to be honest with you, we haven't made a decision yet, right? Or a public decision on what those rate limits will be. Mainly because we want to test the API with all of you, right? We want to see exactly how many we can have. Of course, there are some internal limits in case that, I don't know, some unwanted behavior is happening, but we are not ready to make it public for the moment. But we will let you know, of course, once we've made that decision. Can you request the constant by category? Anamek is asking. The answer is yes, right? So in the constants where we have all those mapping codes, we have them by category. So whether they are property types or amenity codes, you will be able to request them by category as well. So there is a filter for that also. Danny is asking, what makes the API different to other channel manager APIs? Well, I guess the answer is that you need to put them side by side and see which one looks better, easier to understand, and faster. So I would invite you first to get access to our API, make some tests, and see for yourself, right? It's all about efficiency, because I'm sure that everybody has an API, but are they all as efficient as ours, right? Or as fast, or able to deliver hundreds of thousands of properties? Like this, those are the things that kind of need to be compared. And to be honest, I haven't made that comparison, but maybe you can. Another question from Kobus. When do you expect that the current SOP API connections with suppliers will be changed to REST APIs? Well, that is indeed a very good question. And if it was after me, I would say right now, because to be honest, I prefer REST APIs, right? I'm a huge fan of REST APIs. But I think it's going to take some time. And I think that those that want to be competitive or really kind of move with the industry will do it this year, next year, right? Hopefully. But not everybody, right? There's another question from Martin. It is only for retrieving data, get requests, or also post and put for creating and updating records? Well, first of all, think about this. This API is a distribution API, meaning that we as NextPax allow you to retrieve content from us, right? So first of all, we would not allow a distribution partner to change the content on our end, right? Because you as a channel or website will not be allowed to do that. So from that perspective, it's only get. You will only be able to get information from NextPax. In terms of post, we do have the booking APIs, right? Also, which is a kind of separate, let's say, API that allows a channel or a distribution partner to send us a reservation. And that will be post, right? For obvious purposes. But when it comes to put, right, or post, it's more from the supply side point of view, if I'm understanding you correctly. Any other questions? Okay, I see one from Stefan. Besides filtering, do we have pagination also? What about bookings? Are they going through the current live API? Very good questions. So the first one is yes, there is pagination. I don't know if you were able to see it in my screen share, but indeed, most of the endpoints that we have do have pagination. And the reason is, right, we have more than 1 million properties, maybe in the future even more. So there needs to be a way for our partners to retrieve inventory or content in a, let's say, standard way, right? And pagination helps with that. And yes, it is available. Now, what about the bookings? About the bookings, so NextPax already has a solution for the bookings API, meaning that you as a channel or a distribution partner already can have access to our bookings API that will be used to send us bookings, right? And of course, once we receive the booking, we then send it to our supply partner. That will also be available in the developer portal. We still have to add it, right? So by Monday, that will be there. So once you get access, you will see that there as well. But that API, it was already existing for NextPax, if that makes any sense. How do we connect as property owners? I'm not sure if I understand the question, Hans. So as you are a property owner and you would like to connect to our distribution API and get content from us? Maybe you can rephrase the question. Well, in the meantime, I also have another question here. Do you have a white label or channel manager API available? Danny, I'm not sure I understand the question. What do you mean? So we have many APIs available. And one of them is indeed the distribution API, right? But I'm not sure what you mean with the white label. I would suggest that maybe you can reach out to us, or we will reach out to you to kind of clarify this question. Any other questions? Amazing. Thank you, Danny. That's amazing. Our team will most likely have more information. Great. Well, if there's no other questions, I would like to thank everybody for their time. Thanks for joining. I think it is, again, very important that we kind of connect and reach out to one another, right? I think it's very important for the future as we move on to 2021 and beyond. So again, thanks for your time. And if you have any questions or if you need to know anything else from us, by all means, please do reach out to us. And of course, for some of the questions here, we might reach out to you to clarify or to provide you with more information, right? So again, thanks again and have a great day. Thank you.